The bell above Harper's Cafe door chimed sharply as June Ellis rushed in from the drizzle, balancing 2 trays and 1,000 thoughts. The morning rush hadn't started yet, but the smell of coffee and toasted bread already filled the small space. By the window, in his usual seat, sat Elias Porter, back straight, notebook open, his trembling hand tracing invisible lines across the page. "Morning, Mr. Porter," June called softly, setting down his coffee before he asked. "Black. 1 honey packet. No spoon." He smiled, the kind of smile that seemed to cost him effort. "You always remember." "I try. It's part of the job," she said, wiping the table beside him. Elias's voice was quiet, raspy with age. "You're the only one who notices the honey." He lifted the packet with shaky fingers, a small ritual that meant more than either admitted. June lingered a second longer than usual, then caught herself. "You working on something new?" she asked, nodding at the notebook. "Not really," Elias murmured. "Just pretending to be busy. It's easier than being invisible." Her chest tightened. "You're not invisible here." Outside, the rain turned to mist. Inside, Harper's hummed with the soft clink of cups and low chatter. Yet between June and Elias, there was a quiet rhythm, 2 souls meeting every morning, speaking in small gestures, an extra napkin, a remembered order, a shared smile. June had worked at Harper's for 6 years, ever since her mother's illness had pulled her dreams off course. Art school was supposed to be her escape, but bills and hospital forms had a way of rearranging priorities. Still, she found something comforting in routine, and in Elias, who arrived every day at 6:45 sharp, notebook and loneliness in tow. One morning, she noticed him struggle to open the door, his cane wobbling as he caught his breath. "You okay?" she asked, hurrying to steady him. "Old bones," he said with a forced chuckle. "They don't listen anymore." She guided him to a seat. "Then let me listen for them." He looked up at her, surprised, maybe even touched. "You remind me of Ruth, my wife. She used to say things like that. What happened to her?" June asked gently. Elias's eyes clouded. "Cancer. 2 years ago. She was the music, and I was the silence. When she left, the house stopped singing." June didn't know what to say, so she just stood there, hand resting on his shoulder. Sometimes silence was the best answer. Days turned into weeks. June learned more about him through fragments, the way he'd taught music for 40 years, how his son lived far away, too busy with big city work to visit often. He spoke with pride, but also regret. Then, one gray Thursday, Elias didn't show up. At first, June told herself he just overslept. But when 7:15 came and went, and his corner booth stayed empty, unease crept up her spine. By noon, she grabbed her jacket and told her boss she was taking an early break. "You're leaving in the middle of rush hour?" her manager barked. "It's an emergency," she said, already halfway out the door. Elias lived above an antique shop on Maple Street, a few blocks away. She climbed the narrow stairs, heart pounding. When he finally opened the door, he looked pale and disoriented. "June? What are you doing here?" "You missed breakfast," she said. "I just wanted to check." He tried to smile but stumbled. She caught him before he fell. "You should have called someone," she scolded, helping him to the couch. "I didn't want to bother anyone," he whispered. "Besides, there's no one left to call." June stayed that evening. She made him tea, tidied the cluttered table, and wrote down his medication schedule. "I'll stop by tomorrow after work," she said. "You've got enough on your plate, June." "Yeah," she smiled faintly, "but kindness doesn't have a quota." From that night on, she visited him almost daily, bringing groceries, reading aloud from his old sheet music, sometimes just sitting beside him while he napped. When Harper's manager complained about her late shifts, she shrugged it off. Elias had become family in the quietest, most unexpected way. One evening, as she helped him into bed, he said, "You shouldn't waste your time on an old man." "You're not a waste of time," she said softly. "You're a reminder that people still matter." He smiled, eyes glassy. "If only the world believed that." 3 weeks later, she found him gone, head resting on his piano, hands still on the keys. He looked peaceful, like he'd finally found the song he'd been trying to remember. The funeral was small. June sat in the front pew, clutching the folded note he'd left her. "Thank you for noticing me." The words blurred through her tears. A man in a dark suit slipped into the back row late. He was tall, sharp-featured, mid-30s, and out of place among the elderly mourners. After the service, he approached her. "You must be June," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Noah Porter, Elias's son." June looked at him coldly. "He talked about you. Said you were always too busy." Noah's jaw tightened. "I tried to be here more. Life got complicated." "Life's always complicated," she said, brushing past him. "You just have to show up anyway." Later that week, she went back to Harper's. Everything looked the same, except for the empty booth by the window. She stared at it, unable to move. Customers came and went, but none noticed the space that once carried a life. Then, 2 weeks later, Noah returned, this time with 2 lawyers and a folder of papers. June froze as they entered the cafe. "Miss Ellis?" one of them asked. "We're here on behalf of the estate of Elias Porter." June frowned. "Estate? I don't—" Noah interrupted, voice trembling. "My father left something for you." The lawyer opened the folder, reading aloud. "To June Ellis, who gave me kindness without expectation, I leave my home and my piano. May she fill it with the music I could no longer play." The cafe went silent. June's hand flew to her mouth. "No, he can't have meant that." "He did," Noah said quietly, sliding a letter across the table. "He wrote this too." June hesitated before opening it. Inside, Elias's handwriting danced shakily across the page. "June, you reminded me that being seen is life's sweetest sound. You gave me back my dignity. This house is yours now. Make it sing again." Her knees weakened. "I never wanted anything from him," she whispered. "I know," Noah said. His voice broke slightly. "That's why he chose you." For a long moment, they sat in silence, 2 strangers connected by the absence of a man who had changed them both. Noah exhaled shakily. "He used to play this melody, a simple one. Said he wrote it for my mother. I never had time to learn it." June reached across the table. "Maybe it's time you do." If you're still here watching, don't move. The story's about to turn. Subscribe to Story Realm TV to see how kindness changes everything. Noah didn't leave town after that. Something about his father's letter, and June's quiet steadiness, rooted him there longer than he expected. He started showing up at the cafe each morning, not in a suit this time, but in rolled sleeves, trying awkwardly to fit into the rhythm his father had once lived by. One morning, he found June wiping down Elias's old booth. She froze when she saw him. "You're early," she said. "I didn't sleep much," Noah admitted. "I kept thinking about that melody Dad used to play. Do you know it?" June nodded. "He hummed it every morning before his coffee cooled. Said it reminded him of sunlight." "Can you show me?" June hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Only if you promise not to turn the piano into a business project." He laughed for the first time since the funeral. "Deal?" That afternoon, they visited the apartment Elias had left her. Dust clung to the curtains, and the piano sat in the corner, silent but waiting. June pressed a key. It gave a low, tired note, but the sound filled the room with memory. Noah sat beside her, hands uncertain on the keys. "I don't even know where to start." "Start with what you remember," she said. He began slowly, one wrong note after another, until something familiar emerged, the tune his father had loved. June joined in, and for the first time since Elias's death, the house felt alive again. As the last note faded, Noah whispered, "He was right. Music is memory." June nodded. "And kindness is its echo." They spent hours talking after that, about Elias, about June's lost hard dreams, about Noah's guilt. He confessed that his career had consumed him, that he hadn't realized his father's loneliness until it was too late. "I thought success would make him proud," he said quietly. "Turns out, he just wanted me to call." June looked at him with understanding, not judgment. "Then call someone else who needs to hear from you. That's how you make it right." Weeks passed. Noah began repairing the apartment himself, sanding floors, repainting walls. One evening, he told June about an idea. "What if we opened this space?" he said. "A place for music lessons, or art classes, something for people who need company more than perfection." June stared at him. "You mean like a community room?" He nodded. "We could call it the listening room. Somewhere people can feel heard." The name made her smile. "That's beautiful." They worked for months. Word spread through town. Volunteers brought chairs. A retired carpenter fixed the door, and the café donated coffee for the first gathering. Slowly, the apartment became something new. A warm room strung with varied lights, shelves filled with donated sheet music, and Elias's piano standing proud in the center. On opening night, the air buzzed with quiet anticipation. Seniors from the neighborhood arrived, some shy, some curious. A little boy placed his fingers on the piano keys, hitting random notes as laughter filled the room. June looked around and whispered, "He'd have loved this." Noah smiled. "He's here. In every sound." They held hands, not romantically, but as two people bound by gratitude. As the night ended, June stood before the crowd. "Elias Porter once said silence becomes a habit. Tonight, we broke it." The room erupted in gentle applause. Tears shimmered in Noah's eyes. If you felt that silence before, that quiet where no one seems to notice, this is your moment. Don't just watch, share it. Like, comment, and subscribe to Story Realm TV to help stories like this one reach more hearts. Months passed. The listening room became a sanctuary. People came not just for music, but for company. Widows, students, veterans, anyone who needed to be seen. June painted a mural of Elias playing the piano beneath a tree, sunlight spilling over him. It wasn't perfect, but that was the point. Noah had changed too. He still worked, but his phone stayed on silent during dinners. He volunteered at the senior center on weekends. Some evenings, June caught him staring at the mural as if listening for his father's laughter. One day, he brought her a small box. Inside was a golden key. "It's to the listening room," he said. "You started this. You should have it." She shook her head. "We started it." He smiled. "Then we'll share it." A year after Elias's passing, they held a memorial recital. The room was filled to capacity. The cafe staff, the neighbors, even June's manager, who had once scolded her for being late. June sat at the piano, hands trembling slightly. "This was Elias's favorite song," she said to the audience. "He said it reminded him that every day, no matter how small, deserved its own melody." She began to play. The music rose and fell like a heartbeat, carrying fragments of everything she felt: loss, gratitude, love, and peace. Noah watched from the back, holding a photograph of his father. As the final note lingered, an elderly woman approached June. "That was beautiful, dear. May I ask, how do you take your coffee?" June smiled softly, eyes glistening. "Black. 1 honey packet. No spoon." The woman repeated it under her breath, committing it to memory. "I'll remember that." June nodded. "That's all we really want, isn't it? To be remembered." Outside, the lights on Maple Street glowed golden, reflecting off the cafe windows. Inside, laughter mingled with the fading melody. June turned to Noah. "Do you ever think about what happens after we're gone?" He nodded. "Yeah. I think if someone remembers how we took our coffee, or what song we loved, that's enough." They sat in silence, listening to the hum of voices, the faint echo of music, and the warmth that filled the space Elias had once called home. June closed her eyes, whispering, "He was never invisible, Noah." "Not really." Noah smiled. "Because you noticed." And there he was again, that quiet rhythm between two souls, the same one that began with a cup of coffee and a single honey packet. The camera would linger on the piano, Elias's handwriting still faintly visible on the sheet music. "To be seen is to be remembered." The screen fades to black as the words appear. "Dedicated to everyone who listens, notices, and remembers." This is Story Realm TV, where kindness becomes a story worth telling. Subscribe, stay, and share a moment that might just change someone's day.